26.55 is also an important sutta. At Savatthi, then the Brahmin Sangarava approached the Blessed One and exchanged greetings with him. When they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, he sat down to one side and said to the Blessed One, Master Gotama, what is the cause and reason why sometimes those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited? What is the cause and reason why sometimes those hymns that have not been recited over a long period recur to the mind, let alone those that have been recited? Stop here for a moment. So these Brahmins, they like to chant their hymns. So he says, sometimes he cannot remember these hymns. Even those that he often chants, he cannot remember. Not to mention those that he seldom chants. Even worse, he cannot remember. And then sometimes when the mind is very clear, then he can remember all the hymns that he chants. Even those that he haven't chanted for a long time, he can also remember. So he wants to know why. Then the Buddha said, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by sensual lust, overwhelmed by sensual lust, and one does not understand as it really is the escape from arisen sensual lust, on that occasion one neither knows nor sees as it really is one's own good, or the good of others, or the good of both. Then even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water mixed with lac, turmeric, blue dye or crimson dye. If a man with good sight were to examine his own facial reflection in it, he would neither know nor see it as it really is. So too, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by sensual lust, on that occasion, even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, because of the hindrance of sensual lust, we do not see clearly things as they really are. So that being the case, we do not know what is good for ourselves, we do not know what is good for others. And then our memory becomes very bad. Even those chants that we often do also, we cannot remember. So to give a simile to make us understand the effect of the hindrance of sensual lust, the Buddha gave a simile of a bowl of water that is mixed with the different colors of dye. The different colors of dye. They look very beautiful. But when you want to look into the water to see your own reflection, you cannot see properly. So the mind also becomes like that. The mind becomes like the water, full of different beautiful colors. So we have all the sensual lust in our mind, all the delicious thoughts, just like these beautiful colors. But we cannot see clearly. It obsesses our mind. Again, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by ill will or anger, overwhelmed by ill will, and one does not understand as it really is the escape from arisen ill will, on that occasion one neither knows nor sees as it really is one's own good, or the good of others, or the good of both. Then even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water being heated over a fire, bubbling and boiling. If a man with good sight were to examine his own facial reflection in it, he would neither know nor see it as it really is. So too, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by ill will, on that occasion, even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, the simile for ill will in our mind is like this bowl of water heated until it is boiling. So it's boiling. When you look into it, it is so disturbed that you cannot see your own reflection clearly. So in the same way, when we have ill will in our mind is boiling. boiling with anger. That being the case, we cannot think clearly. We cannot see things as they really are. Again, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by sloth and torpor, overwhelmed by sloth and torpor, and one does not understand as it really is the escape from arisen sloth and torpor, on that occasion one neither knows nor sees as it really is one's own good, or the good of others, or the good of both, then even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water covered over with water plants and algae. If a man with good sight were to examine his own facial reflection in it, he would neither know nor see it as it really is. So too, Brahmin, when one dwells with the mind obsessed by sloth and torpor, on that occasion, even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. So here, the simile for sloth and torpor is a bowl of water covered over with water plants like water lilies and algae growing on the surface. So when these plants are on the surface, if you look into the water, you cannot see your own reflection clearly. Similarly, when our mind is obsessed, covered over with sloth and torpor, then we cannot see clearly, we cannot think clearly. Again, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by restlessness and remorse, overwhelmed by restlessness and remorse, and one does not understand as it really is the escape from arisen restlessness and remorse, on that occasion one neither knows nor sees as it really is one's own good, or the good of others, or the good of both, then even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water stirred by the wind, rippling, swirling, churned into wavelets. If a man with good sight were to examine his own facial reflection in it, he would neither know nor see as it really is. So too, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by restlessness and remorse, on that occasion, even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. So here the simile for restlessness and remorse, an agitated mind, a disturbed mind, is like the bowl of water stirred by the wind. The wind is so strong that it creates wavelets in the bowl, and the water is swirling, rippling. Then you cannot see your reflection clearly. So in the same way, our mind is turned by this restlessness and remorse, so that we cannot think clearly, cannot see clearly. Again, Brahmin, when one dwells with the mind obsessed by doubt, overwhelmed by doubt, and one does not understand as it really is the escape from arisen doubt, on that occasion one neither knows nor sees as it really is one's own good, or the good of others, or the good of both, then even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water that is turbid, unsettled, muddy, placed in the dark. If a man with good sight were to examine his own facial reflection in it, he would neither know nor see as it really is. So too, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind obsessed by doubt, on that occasion, even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. This Brahmin is the cause and reason why even those hymns that have been recited over a long period do not recur to the mind, let alone those that have not been recited. So here the simile for doubt is a bowl of water that is muddy, unclear, and it is put in a dark place. And then you go and look into the bowl, you definitely cannot see your reflection. So in the same way, when our mind is overcome by doubt, our mind is murky, muddy, dark, and we cannot see clearly. Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind that is not obsessed by sensual lust, not overwhelmed by sensual lust, and one understands as it really is the escape from arisen sensual lust. On that occasion, one knows and sees as it really is one's own good and the good of others and the good of both. Then even those hymns that have not been recited over a long period recur to the mind, let alone those that have been recited. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water not mixed with lac, turmeric, blue dye or crimson dye. If a man with good sight were to examine his own facial reflection in it, he would know and see as it really is. So too, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind that is not obsessed by sensual lust, on that occasion, even those hymns that have not been recited over a long period recur to the mind, let alone those that have been recited. Again, Brahmin, when one dwells with a mind that is not obsessed by ill will, then even those hymns that have not been recited over a long period recur to the mind. Suppose, Brahmin, there is a bowl of water not heated over a fire, not bubbling, not boiling. Then a man with good eyesight would see his reflection clearly. So too, when one dwells with a mind not obsessed by ill will, on that occasion, even those hymns that have not been recited recur to the mind. So similarly, a mind that is not obsessed by sloth and torpor, then you can remember very well. It's because it's very clear. Just like a bowl of water, not covered with water plants and algae. And a mind that is not obsessed by restlessness and remorse also can remember very clearly. Just like a bowl of water, not stirred by the wind. And a mind that is not obsessed by doubt can remember very well. Just like a bowl of water that is clear and set in a bright place, then you can see clearly. This Brahmin is the cause and reason why even those hymns that have not been recited over a long period recur to the mind, let alone those that have been recited. These 7 factors of enlightenment, Brahmin, are non-obstructions, non-hindrances, non-corruptions of the mind. When cultivated and developed, they lead to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and liberation. What's 7? The enlightenment factor of recollection is a non-obstruction. The enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma, etc. are non-obstructions. These 7 factors of enlightenment are non-obstructions, non-hindrances, non-corruptions of the mind. When developed and cultivated, they lead to the realization of the fruit of true knowledge and liberation. And this was said, the Brahmin Sangarava said to the Blessed One, Magnificent Master Gotama, and he took refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Bhikkhu Sangha. From today, let Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. It's the end of the sutta. So here this sutta makes us see very clearly the effect of the 5 hindrances on the mind. The simile is given very clear. So only thing is this type of suttas we have to read and then reflect on it, think over it.